I want you to take a moment and picture the person who gave you your first big career opportunity. That person who took a chance on you to do something you'd never done before, maybe before you were really ready. Do you remember their name? What they looked like? What that meant for you? So, I don't know who you're picturing, what their name is, or what they look like. But I do know something important about them. In some meaningful way, they changed your life. Now, often, when we talk about people like this, we call them mentors. And we know that mentors are people who give us advice, share perspective, or teach us new skills. And we're taught that early in our career, we should be constantly scanning our working environment, always on the hunt for that next mentor. But not everyone who mentors you has the power to help you move up, to get to that next level, to advocate for you when it really counts. We need a different word for that. We'll call that sponsorship. And while I believe that mentors matter, we need sponsors to be really successful. So, what is sponsorship? A sponsor sees the potential in you. They give you access to the kinds of experiences and relationships that they already have that you may not be able to find on your own. And finally, they'll put their own reputation on the line to advocate for your promotion, whether it's to greater responsibility or visibility. Now, my guess is that each of you could probably tell me right now specifically what your sponsor did for you. But sponsorship as a skill set is generalizable. It matters in every profession. So to picture this, I want you to picture a professional hero of mine, Yoda. Now, I loved Star Wars as a kid, and I love it even more now because Yoda, it turns out, is one of the greatest sponsors of all time. And here's why. When we first meet him, Luke Skywalker looks a lot more like a farmhand than a Jedi master. But Yoda sees through that to the potential in him and decides to sponsor him. Next, he creates opportunities for Luke to learn the kinds of skills he'll need to be successful as a Jedi. Now, what's important about this is that he's not just giving Luke advice. He's giving him access to the kinds of experiences that Luke wouldn't have known how to find on his own. And finally, and if you haven't already been taking this metaphor with a grain of salt, you could start now, Yoda's dying act is to promote Luke. He makes him the last of the living Jedi, and that former farmhand goes on to save the galaxy. So at this point, you might think that this talk is about the importance of finding your Yoda, someone to advocate for you and help you achieve great things. But actually, this is a talk about the importance of being a Yoda and how to discover that greatness in others. And there's 3 important reasons to do so. First, and this might be obvious, but sponsorship is a way to have a measurable impact on somebody else's life. Think back to the person you pictured at the beginning. You know what a powerful impact that sponsorship had for you. But what if you had never met that person? Or what if you had, but they just hadn't chosen you to take that chance on? Where would you be now? That gap between what could have been and what is tangible to you, although perhaps hard to measure except looking back. So if you want to change lives, sponsorship is a way to fill that gap for someone else. Now, second, and this is perhaps less intuitive, sponsorship turns out to be good for the sponsor. Imagine having a bench of people who feel about you the way you feel about the person you pictured. What could you get done? And this isn't fluffy stuff. A Deloitte study found that 70% of people who self-identify as sponsors reported faster progression in their own careers. And this makes sense, right? Because while early in our careers, we're rewarded for being strong individual producers, there comes a time when the things we're asked to achieve we can't do on our own. And that's when having a bench counts. And there's something powerful about filling that bench with people who are early in their own careers. There's a saying in Silicon Valley that there's two kinds of investors here. People who invested in Facebook early and people who didn't but wish they did. Now, I can't tell you how to invest your money, but when you invest in people early, the return is a network that's not just broader, but deeper. And that social network is a competitive advantage as a leader who wants to get big things done. So, sponsorship. It's good for others and it's good for you. But there's a third reason I want you to consider this, and that's because sponsorship is a powerful tool for changing organizations from the inside out, no matter what stage you're at in your own career. And here's why. We know that organizations with diverse teams have better business outcomes. And when I look at the world outside of our classrooms, I see lots of organizations that have figured out how to hire fairly diverse pools of talent, at least at the entry levels. But despite knowing this, leadership remains looking stubbornly like it did 30 years ago. This says to me that there's something broken in how we're moving people through organizations, and that it looks less like a ladder than like a climbing wall, where the ropes and carabiners are only handed down to some people. I believe that in many ways, it comes down to who is getting sponsored. Research shows that we're more likely to spend time with, communicate with, trust, and by extension, sponsor people who are similar to us. It's literally human nature. But in a world where 80% of senior leaders and 97% of CEOs are men, it's perhaps not surprising that sponsorship can end up looking in some ways like a self-replicating system. And again, people liking people who are like them doesn't make them bad people, just human. But what it says is that if we truly want to create diverse organizations, we have to do what feels unnatural and be intentional about looking for potential in people who don't look like us. No matter who you are or what you look like, I hope the bench of people you build looks less like this and more like this. So I hope that by being explicit about what sponsorship is, what it's done for you and me, and how we can step into that role ourselves, we could be the ones to break that self-replicating system. And it's not hard to do. First, we can start now. So many of us picture our sponsors to be older and wiser, but you don't have to wait until you're a shriveled green 900-year-old to do this. No matter where you are, there are Luke Skywalkers behind you, wanting to go to your academic institution, work for your company, or move up into your current role. We can be intentional about looking for potential in people who don't look like us. We can be thoughtful about giving those people access to the experiences and relationships we already have that they may not know how to find on their own. And finally, we can be strategic about advocating for their promotion so that they can benefit from our own attempts to make it up that climbing wall. To change the world that we inherit, we need not just more sponsorship, but better sponsorship. And we need it to start now, not in another decade. So I hope that this talk could be a kind of playbook for us to go out into the world and be intentional about sponsoring. And I hope you do so because it's a powerful way to have an impact on somebody else's life. And I hope you do so because it's an investment in yourself and your ability to get big things done. And I hope you do so because it's a powerful tool for changing organizations from the inside out. But most of all, I hope you do so because our legacies are not just the businesses and bank accounts we leave behind, but rather the people whose lives we've helped to build. You know what it's like to have found your Yoda. So go out and find your Luke.